Lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi everyone, welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness. I'm Kara Sundlin, and we're back with some Motivation Monday. It is Monday at the time of this show taping. Do you find yourself struggling to get it done? You've got that dream on the shelf. You feel like you just don't have time to make it happen. Well, maybe the 15-minute method could be your answer. That is the title of a brand new book from Connecticut author Sam Bennett, and she's joining us in the studio now to tell us how it works. Thank you so much for being with us.
I'm so pleased.
Yeah. So, you know, so many people have something they want to do.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to write a book. Maybe you want to lose weight. And often it comes down to, at the end of the day, I didn't do it. I didn't have time. Maybe tomorrow.
Right.
That's what gets in the way of us doing what we want to do.
That's what gets in the way. And what I want to propose is the idea that maybe you could just do a little.
Yeah.
Just do a little of the things that light you up inside, whatever those things are, those things that matter only to you.
Okay.
Right? They might matter to other people as well, but not your to-do list, not your work to-do list, but the things that really make you you, and that when you spend time doing them, you're like, oh, I feel good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why you wrote the book, The 15-Minute Method, the surprisingly simple art of getting it done. And I think the skeptic is going to say, 15 minutes, that's not enough to do anything that matters.
Right.
And what would you say to that?
I would say 15 minutes of something is more than no minutes of nothing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the cumulative effect is really, you've seen it be transformational in your own life.
It's incredible, actually, how much a person can actually get done in 15 minutes. It's everyone I talk to is constantly shocked at, like, oh my God, it was just 15 minutes, and I cleared half the closet. I reached out to that friend I hadn't spoken to. I wrote a whole poem I didn't even know I had inside me. Like, you have an opportunity to sort of surprise and delight yourself, and it hopscotches right over your perfectionism. Because sometimes that, like, oh, that's not enough time, is really like, that's not enough time for it to be perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Or the whole not wanting to get started, because if you start for 15 minutes, maybe you'll even continue. You don't have to. You encourage people, go ahead and quit after 15 minutes.
Absolutely. But the idea that you're doing it just for 15 minutes and every day.
Yeah. Because we know, in fact, a lot of the personal trainers on this show will say consistency beats intensity every time. They'd rather you do a 5-minute workout every day.
That's right.
Than one workout where you're sore and then you don't do it again until the following week or the next month. But this isn't just you guessing at this. Tell me about some of the transformations you've seen in your own life and the amazing things you've been able to accomplish with the 15-minute method.
Well, the book itself is a good example. As I talk about, I've had long-haul COVID for the last 2.5 years. So a lot of this book was written in 15-minute increments because I really wasn't physically capable of doing more than that, which was a shock to the system, because my first book was called Get It Done. Like,
right.
I'm a
yeah, get it done.
I'm a let's do it person.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden, my body was like, ha, that's cute.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So the book itself, but I have a client who, she made jewelry, but she was like, by the time I get my stuff out, it's already 15 minutes and stuff. And I said, well, you're a creative person, you know. Well, the next time I talked to her, she had made a whole little tray so she could just sit and do like 15 minutes. And in 2 weeks, she had made 6 necklaces, which was more than she had done in the previous 6 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And even just tuning into your own inner voice. So I have some clients who sit in the garden with the sun on their face for 15 minutes.
Right, sometimes you just need 15 minutes to just be, not do, and that can be transformational.
Exactly. But like you're saying, stretching, meal prep, you know, my sister makes little salad, she makes her own salad bar, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Right? 15 minutes of chopping and she's set for 3 days.
Yeah, well, and you know, I think about that too. Meal prep is something that I want to do. And then sometimes I'll get inspired by something we cook on Great Day Connecticut, or I see in my reel and I go do it and I go, oh my gosh, that took 5 minutes. Why do I not do this all the time?
Why do I not do this all the time?
And the more we do something also, the faster it gets, it builds momentum, all of that. But you also say this 15-minute strategy, I think it's going to be super helpful for busy moms, but it also helps ADHD, neurospicy, creatives. Why does that help?
The highly creative mind is easily overwhelmed. right? We have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of ideas all the time. It's not a character defect. You know, sometimes people think, oh, she's such a dilettante, or oh, master of, you know, jack of all trades. No, you just have a lot of ideas all the time. That's okay. But so to give yourself just a little narrow window of like, let's start and finish, allows you to actually get something done, to get out of the realm of thinking about it and feeling overwhelmed by it, to actually putting it into the real world.
Yeah, and 15 minutes, I think, sounds way more doable than 30. Even though we're all into the 30-minute workout or the 30-minute meal. When someone says a 30-minute meal to me on a Wednesday, I'm like, nah. Yeah.
I'm like,
so
what 30 minutes is that? Like,
yeah. So 15 minutes really is doable. I mean, honestly, if someone says to you, I don't have 15 minutes, then what do you say?
I say, I think you're lying to yourself or to me, one or the other.
Right.
I think everybody's got 15 minutes. You can get up 15 minutes earlier. You can tell your job and your kids, hold off for 15 minutes. And here's the thing I hear sometimes is that like, well, it would be selfish. It's not that I don't have it, it's that I would be selfish if I took that time for myself. And what I want to say is, you know what's actually selfish is you walking around exhausted and stressed out and with no sense of humor, and the rest of us have to deal with you like that.
Yeah, that's not the kind of person you want to be, or spouse, or mom, or any of that.
Right, that's selfish. You spend 15 minutes on something that matters to you, and all of a sudden, you're a little calmer, you're a better listener, you're less reactive.
Right.
We love that version of you. Please, be that person.
Yeah. Well, and you said, you know, it's so often that you'll say, how you doing? Oh, busy, but good. You say busy has really become our narcotic.
Busy for many years was probably my second favorite narcotic. Okay. Because, you know, if you're busy enough, then the only feeling you have is tired.
Okay.
Right? You can put a lot under the rug when you're just busy. So, and there's sort of this international game of I'm so busy poker going on, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, you really? You think you're so busy? I'm so busy. Really? Yeah. I'm so busy. Like, okay, we get it.
Everyone's busy.
Everyone's busy. Drop it.
I think I read also busy, like if you take it back to the original origin of the word, it relates to sickness in like ancient Greek. So like, it's actually something we probably don't want to be.
Exactly. I think it's a little boring. You know, it could be a little, you know, and for people to say, how are you? And you say, you know, I spent 15 minutes writing some kind of terrible poetry this morning. That's so much more interesting than I'm busy, right?
Yeah.
So drop the word busy, drop the word overwhelm, get a little more intentional about your own life, and start doing the things that light you up from the inside, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day.
Sure. And you know, if you're talking about, let's talk about it in the professional sense. So many people say, I've got a book in me, or I'd like to start this business. That's big online right now. I want to write a book, or I want to start a business because I want to quit my 9 to 5. And this 15-minute method can really help people bridge to who they're meant to be.
Absolutely. You know, it's the whole how do you eat an elephant, you know, one step at a time. And especially for things that there isn't really a right way. I mean, there isn't a right way to start your side hustle. There isn't a right way to write a book. There's just your way. So you get to figure out what your way is. And you have these little daily 15-minute times in your own lab. You know, you can experiment for yourself and go like, oh, this really, you know, this works and this doesn't. I love this, I don't love that. Wow, if I spend 15 minutes on LinkedIn every day, I'm making 2 or 3 connections.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I follow up with those connections. Oh, and now I got a new client. Oh, right? And then you get this sort of virtuous cycle of like, this is, how hard can it be?
So, and you also say to do well, if we really, and those of us, you know, self-admitted type A people, you know, working in broadcasting is a competitive business, we're always go, go, go. But that only takes you so far. So that desire to be really great at your game can really be holding you back, and this alleviates some of that.
It just allows you to fill your own tank a little bit. You know, take your eyes off of what everybody else is doing and all that competition and all that rat race, and just focus on you. What did you love to do when you were a little kid? What did you love to do when you were a young person? And where is that in your life today? And stop, you know, and then we have that like, well, I need 2 weekends. You know, well, I need a whole day. Well, I need 3 months in Provence to write my novel. It's like, well, that sounds great, and I really hope that happens for you. But in the meantime, let's start with 15 minutes.
Right, yeah. And, you know, it could work with, you know, your spouse too, or something that you want to, you know, right now there's a project in our house, the garage, and my husband will say, oh, I just don't have time. Like, you know, we've had something every weekend. It's like, of course, that's never going to change. So if instead you would say, rather than save when you're going to have this huge day or a free weekend, just say, I'm going to work on this garage 15 minutes a day. And you might find that after 3 or 4 days, it's basically done.
It's amazing, again, how much you can get done. And even like, spend your first 15 minutes just looking at the garage. Just go out there with a cup of tea and just take it in.
Take it in. That was your assignment for one day, right?
That's it, and then you can be done. And then maybe the next day you sort of open up one of those Rubbermaid tins and go, oh, that's Christmas. Okay, well, let's put a sign out that says Christmas stuff that can stay. You know, like.
Should we set a timer? Does that help?
It's totally your call. Lots of people like to have timers. That makes them, you know, helps set them. But you don't want to. Sometimes you get out, start something for 15 minutes, and you get up 3 hours later, and that's great. So we don't want to.
Right. Or you go, I'm never doing that again because I just said 15 minutes, and then I ended up, you know, going down the time hole. So if you are one of those people, you could say, I'm doing 15 minutes. If I choose to, I'm going to snooze it and do a little bit more.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Because so many times it's, you know, we're living in this lack of time world, everything, not enough time, it's really like not enoughness.
Right.
You want us to flip that and think, I've got enough to do something I'm meant to do.
I do, and this whole thing, you know, time management is not about time.
Okay, what's it about?
It's about personal discipline.
Okay.
Because we all get the same 24 hours. You know, you say, I don't have enough time. Well, how's that? Everybody gets the same amount of time.
Yeah, like how did Richard Branson create like 15 businesses and, you know, fly around the world, whatever, all these things that we see these people do these amazing things.
Exactly, exactly. Or even just stay connected with their grandchildren. You know, I'm going to spend 15 minutes a day texting with the kids, or I'm going to spend 15 minutes staring at a blank piece of paper. I mean, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be bored for 15 minutes? Right,
and boredom really leads to bliss and creativity, right?
It can.
It can. I mean, that's one thing they say, that we should really teach our kids to be bored. In the news today, it's like warnings about social media apps they want to label just like we have in cigarettes, because people think a break is let me scroll. But that actually, there's your 15 minutes right there.
Right there, and it's so much noise and extra information and extra input, and again, the comparative, well, that person's very pretty, and that person seems to have a lot of money, and this is even...
Yeah.
Like, remember those long hours and those long car trips when we were kids in the way back of the Volvo, just staring out the window?
Looking out the window because you didn't want to be car sick, and they said that if you look out the window, you won't, because I couldn't read, I couldn't do anything, I don't know, other than like listen to Madonna over and over again. Yeah.
My mother insists that I actually overcame car sickness by sheer force of will because I wanted to read so much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So let's talk about this. How would we pick? Basically, you want us to do 15 minutes every day.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do the same thing every day.
No, absolutely not. And in fact, for those of you who have this, like, well, I don't even know what I'd do, I don't know where I'd start. Great.
Put it on your calendar. It might be 15 minutes of thinking about what I'm going to do.
Make a list of 15 things you think you might like to try.
Okay.
You know, and see where it leads you. You know, follow the sparkly breadcrumbs. No.
You have things in the book like, I'm thinking, you know, productive things, but you're thinking, I mean, there's things in there like you use your 15 minutes often to just connect with yourself. Maybe do a little journaling, a little breathing, if you want to start a more meditative practice.
Exactly. I do mine 15 minutes, little sort of, journaling, prayer, meditation practice that I do before I've even off the mattress. I mean, I don't do anything until I've done that.
Yeah.
So, and then it's done, and the whole rest of my day sort of...
I would need the coffee first, but then I like to do that, yeah.
See, but again, this is the beautiful thing. You finally have 15 minutes in which you get to be 100% in charge.
Right.
And again, tapping into that voice and those interests and those things that light you up inside, that's life.
Yeah, right. You know, at the end of it, you know, we hate to say this, but like when they say, what do you write about your obituary? They don't write about your to-do list. They don't write about this. They write about what kind of a person you were.
That's right.
And, you know, what kind of hobbies you had. And so if we're falling down the busy black hole, we don't want that. We want to, but we can just take our life back 15-minute increments at a time.
Exactly. I don't think anybody wants to be at their own memorial service and have everybody say, well, you know, her tile grout, you know, her garage was spotless.
Yeah,
like,
or she was so busy.
She was so busy. Or she was so well behaved. She never, you know, bothered anybody.
Well, that's boring. Right, okay. All right, so what is spotlight syndrome and how does that counteract what we're trying to do?
Spotlight syndrome is when you overinterpret what other people are thinking of you. So, and as a shy person and an introverted person, because of my personality, nobody thinks that I'm shy or introverted, but I am. And so here we are, you know, getting to know each other, and I say, I like bumble my words. And then I think, oh no, now she thinks I'm an idiot. Oh no, now I can never show my face again. Right? And I magnify this little mistake that I might have made, and I feel like this giant spotlight is on me.
Yeah.
When in fact, nobody's really paying that much attention.
Right.
They're mostly thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
But we let these little bumbles, these little failures, these little moments of humanity, instead of opening ourselves up to them and going like, wow, that sentence came out like gibberish, let me try that again. And just moving on, we tend to over-amplify those little negative experiences.
Yeah, right. And I think if you're a mom, you understand. It's like I'll tell my teenagers who are always worried that everybody is, thinking of them, and then you realize actually they're probably, especially if it's another teenager, they're thinking of themselves. Like you are overinflating your importance, and just go on, because no one's going to remember this thing that you're so worried about.
And letting that fear of, well, what if I try this thing that I really want to do and I fail? And what if I fail publicly? And what if I fail and it's a big belly flop?
Yeah.
Or it's a financial hit? Or somebody disapproves?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's entirely possible. I mean, I'm not going to tell you.
So how do we get past that fear?
15 minutes at a time. Right? You're not doing the whole thing.
Right.
You're just doing 15 minutes. And again, you start to, it's strength building, right? You start to do it, and the more you do it, the more you'll have a little confidence around it.
Okay.
A little more experience. And you get, again, to sort of surprise and delight yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So if the fear is, I want to start my business, but I'm worried it's going to be a financial hit, because that can be really paralyzing for people.
Sure.
Let's take a little deeper dive. Why would the 15-minute method help you perhaps make that successful business and circumvent the fear?
So when we move from my imagination is painting all these very vivid pictures of failure to my actual hand is dialing the actual phone to talk to someone who might be interested in what I have to offer.
Yeah.
Right? Those are two very different worlds.
Okay.
So I sort of want to ground your activity in what's actually happening. People say, I have this thing, but I don't think anybody wants it. And I say, well, how many sales calls have you made this week?
None.
None? Oh. How many of your friends even have you spoken to about this?
Yeah.
Nobody. Okay, so right now the only person in your life telling you no is you.
Yeah, okay. So test the waters. And that's what, this is, the 15-minute method is put your toe in the water. You don't like it, you can always put your toe right back out.
Exactly.
And that allows us to be more free, because we don't have all these, like, okay, whatever, I'm not really losing anything, it's just 15 minutes.
Exactly. And here's my big fantasy, is that people at work will start talking about it with each other. Like, what did you do with your 15 minutes? Oh, well, I went and cleaned off my kayak paddle because I love kayaking. I can't wait to go this week. I kayak,
Yeah.
Oh, I was working on a needlepoint you do needlepoint? I do needlepoint, right? So this is where we start to connect with each other on the things that we really love.
Yeah, and so many things, when we have these ideas, the practical is really what we need, because most people don't have time. Even, we'll talk about when you're learning meditation, and most people don't have time to go be a monk and sit on a mountain for 2 hours and chant.
Right.
But 15 minutes a day, which most of the people who are meditation teachers on this show will say, if we did 3 minutes a day, we change our gray matter in our brain.
100%.
So we don't even need 15 minutes when you're talking about something like that. So these little micro blessings you talk about, that can be really motivation that we get. What's a micro blessing?
So micro blessing is sort of my answer to both microaggressions,
Okay.
which can be really demoralizing, these little sort of pricks and pokes that you get during the day.
Yep.
Right? It's noticing the things that are really sweet and wonderful in your life.
Okay.
Just the way the sunlight looks coming through the window, or the softness of your kid's head, that the back of their head is so soft.
Yeah.
Just the little teeny tiny things, a lot of them very sensory things.
Okay.
That you just go, oh, life is sweet. Life is good. And it sounds very much like a gratitude list, and it kind of is.
Yeah.
But I find that gratitude list can get a little generic, like, oh, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful. It's like, yeah, you are, I know.
Right, but real gratitude lists, often they'll tell you, like, think of something that happened that day.
Exactly.
That's specific.
When my sister and I had, cracked up at that little old joke that we've had with each other for 100 years, like, that was a micro blessing for me today. Right?
Yeah. Okay, so you think it's possible to change your whole world in 15 minutes a day?
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little motivation. I mean, you have written a book, you've launched businesses.
I have. I moved cross country. I bought a house. I came to Connecticut.
You were in California. Now you're in Connecticut. Yeah. So you've seen that all these big things you did in your life, you did it by the 15-minute method.
A lot of it, yeah. I mean, every once in a while, sure, you need something that's going to be a big push, and you really do need all weekend, or you need to, But it's amazing how much you can do in 15 minutes and how much, again, 15 minutes every single day.
Yeah. Well, I love that even the story of this book, your editor, you had already written a very successful book called Get It Done. And you're really good at getting things done.
Yeah.
And then the editor said, well, write a book about overwhelm.
Yeah.
And so that's how this was born?
It is. And I said I would be happy to write a book about overwhelm because it's a word, first of all, that I hear all the time.
Yeah.
More and more. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. And what interested me is overwhelm is not an outside problem. The world is not overwhelming you. You are overwhelming you. We know this because when we look at people who are chronically in situations that are overwhelming, people who work in the ER, people who are first responders, people who, work in the veterinary office, those people are in overwhelming situations, but they themselves are not overwhelmed. They're fine.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I find that as a journalist, we can have
Right.
really tough things, breaking news,
Exactly.
from
How did you
covering.
stand there? How could you talk to those people? How could you not get overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Because it's your job.
Right, because it's our job, and so we're organized, whether it be a horrific school shooting or election night chaos, or,
Right.
we're in there just like a doctor doesn't get overwhelmed during surgery, probably, because they're in their zone.
Right.
They might feel overwhelmed about other things later.
Right.
So finances are really overwhelming for people, and money can be a reason why people say they're not going to do something, too. So how do you think, what's some wisdom from the book about tackling something, perhaps you've got a lot of debt, or you've got some things that you're just worried about when it comes to money, and that's keeping you stuck?
Yeah, money is a great one. We sort of project everything onto money, don't we? I sort of like to imagine money like an invisible friend that follows you around like, hey, what are we going to do? And we're like, there's not enough money. There's not enough money. Money's like, but I'm right here.
Right.
My little imagination games. But money's a great thing to spend the 15 minutes a day on because you can spend 15 minutes checking your accounts and actually writing down what's in there.
Yeah.
You can spend 15 minutes finding the Zestimate for your home and seeing, what would happen if you refinanced. You can spend 15 minutes investigating stocks. You can spend 15 minutes calling an advisor. You can spend 15 minutes looking over your credit card bills and seeing what could go. That's a terrific area to just do a little bit, do a little bit, do a little bit. And again, what we find is that where our attention goes, grows, right? So if we're looking for ways to be smarter about how we manage our money every day for 15 minutes, we might find that spreads out over the day a little bit more. And now it's not this big monster in the closet, it's something you're dealing with regularly.
So in our final 5 minutes, see how fast this goes, we have basically 30 minutes, two 15-minute segments. And I think about that, our newscast is 30 minutes and 15 minutes of it, we can educate you about what happened all over the world in 15 minutes. So
incredible how much you guys pack in.
Right. I mean, our average story is only a minute and a half long. So, if we talk about that in terms of, a lot of us as broadcasters think in seconds and minutes, so I'm used to that part. But then the bigger things where you don't have the routine or you don't have the structure, let's talk about some takeaways. So, first of all, you can get the book. It's the 15-minute method, the surprisingly simple art of getting it done. This is available everywhere
you buy books.
Everywhere you buy books. Okay. So you've got some things to help us with, just mapping it out. But for some takeaways in our final moments together, what would be 3 takeaways?
Well, one thing I just thought of is inspired by something you just said, which is I think especially for leaders, it's important to spend some time, maybe every day, doing something at which you are a beginner. Something at which you're maybe not that competent. You're not that good at it. I used to do weightlifting, and I was terrible at it. But I loved being terrible at it.
Okay.
I learned so much about myself and how I would how I handled this kind of difficulty and not being in charge and not being the business owner. In the gym, I was just another girl in a tank top. And one time I was really struggling. The trainer finally came over to me and she goes, "Does it hurt or is it just hard?" I'm like, "It's just hard." She goes, "Good. And I was like, wow. But that's a really valuable question for our life, right? Does it hurt? Because if it hurts, stop.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
But if it's just hard,
keep going.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good thing. If you're a leader, you're really proficient in something, give your chance to learn something that's a beginner.
Right.
And so if you're gonna start this, do we put it on the calendar of when we're gonna do the 15 minutes every day?
I love to put things on the calendar. For me, if it's not on the calendar, it may or may not happen. And I really don't want, especially when you're just starting out, until it starts to become a pattern, I don't want you to let yourself off the hook.
Okay.
So I have a group, you can see it on my website at therealsambennett.com, where we meet for 15 minutes on Zoom.
Okay.
At noon.
Every day?
Every weekday.
Every weekday.
Every weekday.
Okay, so the Real Sam Bennett, it's S-A-M Bennett, BENNETT.com. But you mentioned that having another person hold you accountable is huge, because they'll just log on. You guys don't talk about anything, but people come at the end of the 15 minutes and tell you what they've done?
So yeah, I mean, so turn the thing, hi, set the timer for 15 minutes, goes off, and people look up at me with this glow in their eyes, like, oh, I did the thing. I did the, you wouldn't believe what I just did. I'm like, that's fantastic. Good for you. It's wonderful. And watching, we're very involved with other people, right? So when we know there's a group, we know people are waiting on us, we know that people will look to us being there, and that sort of mommy's watching a little bit, and you can say, I did this thing.
Right, because sometimes if you tell yourself, I'm gonna just do 15 minutes a day, and nobody knows about it, nobody's holding you accountable.
Right.
Yeah, so if you're not gonna do the group, do you tell your spouse, do you get another person to do it?
Absolutely, a little positive peer pressure, but if you don't even want to do that, maybe you can just promise yourself a little treat.
Okay,
right?
So we need to reward ourselves.
Absolutely. So I'm going to do 15 minutes of clearing out this much of the shoe cupboard, all these black shoes. I can't need all of them. And then I'm going to go get I'm going to make myself that cup of tea that I really like, or that special something. Yeah.
I do that with the dishwasher sometimes. I hate unloading the dishwasher.
Yes.
But I turn on the tea kettle, I'm like, okay, I'm going to race. I'm going to have the dishwasher unloaded and the dirty ones put in before it boils.
I love that.
So, but the idea is like, we just have to get started, and then there's so much stress between the procrastination and the perfectionism. So the 15-minute method, you find, gets rid of that.
It hopscotches right over all of that, because how perfect is it going to be in 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And you're going to do it again tomorrow.
One other tip that I want to bring up as we're running out of time, but like you said, if the first step seems too hard, skip ahead, start the second step.
Do the second step.
So an example
start in the middle,
is
start
like,
at the end.
if it's like the first step is you're gonna have to go grocery shopping and do all this stuff for the recipe, you would say, is the second step just to chop a pepper? Just do that.
Just do that. Or I want to write a screenplay. Well, I should probably, go back to school and get a degree in screenwriting, or I should probably buy a book about screenwriting. Or you could just take an index card and start writing some words on it.
Write some ideas, yeah. Well, that is our time for right now. But again, the book is called The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done by Sam Bennett, who is an author who lives right here in Connecticut. Sam, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and check her out at sambennett.com. Have a great day, everyone, and be well.